human brain anatomy. Let's assemble this guy, and we'll go over the 4 major lobes of the brain. If I could get this assembled. Okay, so what we have here is a fully assembled brain. This is the frontal view, the posterior view. So the 4 different lobes are the frontal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, and the parietal lobes. And when we open this up, this view, the mid-sagittal view, corresponds to this. Now we'll go over the different parts of the brain. One more thing to note is this, let me put this together again. This deep groove that separates the left from the right hemisphere is called the longitudinal fissure. Longitudinal fissure. So starting with this little fold, this fold is called the central sulcus, which divides the precentral gyrus from the postcentral gyrus. So this is the central sulcus. In front of that is the precentral gyrus, and behind that is the postcentral gyrus. This structure here is the corpus callosum. This is also where you find the lateral ventricles. Just below that, this is the fornix. Below the fornix, you'll find the choroid plexus, where the cerebrospinal fluid is made. And this region, this piece, is the thalamus. And there's a small eye spot that you find here, which is called the interthalamic adhesion. And this joins the left and right hemispheres of the thalamus. And anterior to the thalamus, you'll find the hypothalamus. And this bulb here is the anterior commissure, and back here is the posterior commissure. This is the pineal gland, and there are 4 bulbs together make up this structure, which is called the corpora quadrigemina, quad for 4. This here, just below the anterior commissure, is the optic chiasma. And just south of the optic chiasma, you'll find the pituitary gland. And this tiny bulb here is the mammillary bulb, or I'm sorry, mammillary body. And the structure here is the pons, and just below the pons you'll find the medulla oblongata. And where I showed you the fornix and the thalamus and the interthalamic adhesion, this area is also where the 3rd ventricle is found. And this passageway is called the cerebral aqueduct that leads you to the 4th ventricle. And this is a pathway in which the cerebral spinal fluid flows. This is another major region of the brain, which is called the cerebellum. And these tree-like structures are called the arbor vitae. So there are 4 major parts of the brain. They are the cerebrum, diencephalon, brainstem, and the cerebellum. So let's quickly review the parts again. Central sulcus that divides the precentral gyrus from the postcentral gyrus. We have the corpus callosum, the fornix, choroid plexus, pineal body, posterior commissure, anterior commissure, thalamus, interthalamic adhesion, hypothalamus, optic chiasma, pituitary gland, mammillary gland, the pons, medulla oblongata, cerebellum, and arbor vitae. Lateral ventricles, 3rd ventricles, cerebral aqueduct, 4th ventricle. Moving on to the facial region. Let's put this down a little bit. Zoom out. Okay. So there are these three protrusions. They make up the nasal conchae. We have the superior nasal concha, middle nasal concha, and inferior nasal concha. This bony part, which makes up the, the roof of our mouth, this is called the hard palate. And posterior to the hard palate, you'll find the soft palate. And at the very tip of the soft palate is where you would find the ovula. This is the tongue. And at the very back of the tongue, you'll find this tonsil, and it is called the lingual tonsil. And at the very back of the throat, you'll find another tonsil, and this is the palatine tonsil. So we have the lingual tonsil and the palatine tonsil. So there are three regions, three different regions of this area here. Over here is the nasopharynx, and by the mouth, at the very back of the throat, that is the oropharynx region, and then down here is the laryngopharynx. We have the trachea, where the air flows in and out, which, and just behind it, this is the esophagus, where the food enters. And this cartilage here actually will flap down to close the trachea shut when you eat food, so that it doesn't enter the windpipe. And this cartilage is called the epiglottis. The epiglottis. And this indentation here is the vocal cord, not vocal cord, but vocal fold. This is the vocal fold. And this cartilage here is the thyroid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage. And this back here and this little piece just below the thyroid cartilage, these two pieces together are called the cricoid cartilages. Cricoid. We have the thyroid and cricoid. And just below that, this tissue is called the thyroid gland. So if you were to look at the thyroid gland anteriorly, it'll resemble a bow tie, the thyroid gland.